and welcome to a new Betwixt the Books video. We're gonna be hopefully doing this more often. Can't promise that, but the like ideal is that we can do some Betwixt the Books content every once in a while and not once every 7 months. That's the goal. Today we're doing a joint review. We're gonna be talking about I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara. Hold on, I have my physical copy. I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara. This was a book that I suggested to Gretchen because I enjoy true crime, not only through like literature, like I've read several true crime books in my lifetime. I'm a big horror fan, but also just in general, like there's sort of this wave coming out of true crime thanks to shows like Last Podcast on the Left and My Favorite Murder and stuff. It's sort of making the genre have like a revival in a way. I had heard about this several years ago when Patton Oswalt came out with his special after his wife had died, because if you didn't know, Michelle McNamara was married to Patton Oswalt, the comedian slash actor, best known for his role as a rat in a Disney movie. And hearing him talk about her made me interested in looking at her blog that she wrote for years, which was True Crime Diary or something along those lines. I'll try and link it down below if I can find it. And I sort of fell down a rabbit hole there, and that's where her writing really started. Unfortunately, at the time of her death, she had been writing this guy and it was unfinished, so it took a couple of years to come out because several other people sort of had to pick up the pieces here. But even knowing all of that, this was one, as soon as it came out, that I sort of wanted to grab, and I grabbed within the first couple of weeks and asked Gretchen if she wanted to read it with me. I believe a true crime book was one of our Pop Sugar challenges, so it was another thing that we could read together for that. But I'm going to let her talk about her opinion on it.
Hi guys. I hate true crime books. I really do. I have problems with nightmares, overactive imagination, like all that kind of stuff. So when Michaela was like, let's read a true crime novel, I was like, let's not. I am fine with not having that crossed off my Pop Sugar challenge. I let it go. And we actually started reading in the Garden of Good and Evil, in the Garden of... that the one? I looked down, Michaela's on a computer screen this way. And we were so bored. I think both of us in our own way were just so bored. And when this book came out, Michaela was like, oh my god, let's read it. And I was like, no. And then literally after I think we had the conversation about it, I was like, never gonna happen. The Golden State Killer actually got caught. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But so after he got caught, I was like, oh, well, now I can read this book and then feel like I can go to California again. So sure. I was not excited about it at all. I was not excited. And I listened to the audiobook because I like to listen to my nonfiction on audio at this point in my life for some reason. And after I finished reading it, I went to Goodreads and I rated it 4 stars. So you know that if I liked this book, it had to work for it, because I was 100% ready to not like it. So it's one of those weird things where you know what? It was actually a good book, and I'm glad that I read it. I'm gladder that he's caught, but I'm glad that I read it.
I think that for me, this is also going to be a 4-star book. If the entire book had been written by Michelle McNamara, this for sure would have been a 5-star book. The 4 stars comes in with the ending, which is at no fault of the writer, or even the writers that sort of picked up the pieces here. It's just very jarring to have halfway, a little bit over halfway, but halfway through your book, the tone, the style, and all of this stuff sort of shift complete gears. And while it allowed us to sort of get a holistic view of Michelle's work and what she had been working on when she died, it causes some problems for like a reader's perspective. And obviously I had the physical copy, I didn't have the audiobook, so I'll let Gretchen sort of talk about that experience when we switch back to her. But it's so unfortunate that we don't get to have this book in its entirety fully completed in the way that Michelle McNamara would have written it, in the way that she would have wanted it. but it's still a very important true crime book, and it's still very well done. Like, overall, it's still very good as a true crime book. So yeah, it's 4 out of 5 stars for me as well. Sort of at no fault of some things. It's just the format that it ended up needing to have.
I think for me, like, the first thought that I had when I finished this book was, oh my god, no matter what she was writing about, when Michelle McNamara died, like, the world lost an incredible writer. She has this way of writing about the story that involves you emotionally. And I feel like sometimes when I've read true crime books, they're kind of set up like horror movies, and they put in the jump scares and they make it really gory, and like the shock value is sometimes supposed to come from there, which I don't like. And Michelle had this really amazing way of making the story about the crimes, about the victims, but not in a way where I felt like she was using the events for shock value, and not in a way that like she was super dramatizing the victims. Like, I felt like she was giving them the respect that was due to them as people who've had a terrible, terrible thing happen to them, but also she was making us feel very deeply for each person, even if they only showed up for a paragraph or a page. Like, you felt very deeply for every single person, and that was extremely affecting. And also, Michelle put herself in this book and her own fight to find this guy, and the adverse effect that it was having on her own life. Like, she talks about being at a party with her husband, and you know, the party had just started and they were all getting together with their friends, and she got a phone call with some information, and she, you know, wanted to leave. And you know, her husband was really supportive of her, but like, it was really also affecting her life and her ability to sleep, because she was just like so obsessed with this, and not in a way that like is like, oh god, like, lady, you need to calm yourself. You understand why this was so important to her. And so, like, everything in that sense, it's all so character driven, and a story with a lot of like interchanging characters and events, because this guy is over 50 cases, I think, of rape and murder. So like, there's a lot of victims to talk about. There's a lot of people involved, and every single one of them comes through as human in her exceptionally magical way of writing. So when I was listening to the audiobook, just like having that read, I know it's not Michelle McNamara who reads the book, but like, it's a equitably aged woman, and so like, I just felt like, you know, I was really just having an intense conversation with a miraculously amazing wordsmith, until she is no longer there. And I think the extremely jarring thing is that right after she's like stopped writing, they go to a transcript of a conversation, like a recorded transcript that she had with someone. And so you have the audiobook narrator going, Michelle, blah, 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 Paul, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that is exceptionally jarring. I think that it might have been a little bit less if it was just like prose to prose, but it's like prose, random transcript chapter, someone else's prose. And I was like, what is happening? It's happening right now. So I think that's the important part. And again, nothing against the writer. It's just that like, there is no way any other human being could have followed up Michelle McNamara's writing. There's just no way.
For me, the last thing that I sort of wanted to mention, because Gretchen touched on the other writers picking it up, and so did I, was that this book came out a couple months before the Golden State Killer was caught. And like Gretchen said, I had recommended it beforehand, but I think that this book got a lot of notoriety. Is that like a lot of push because he got caught so soon to its publishing. And Patton Oswalt and the other folks that contributed to this book were still on their book tour, so much so when this guy got caught, and it sort of added a lot of press behind it. But I really wanted to stress that I think this book would become a staple true crime book even if that hadn't happened. I think that this book would have been fantastic and would have been a bestseller even without all of the additional press of this guy getting caught, because of her writing and her ability to take out people who were victims, not just the people that had the events happen to them, had him actually attack them, but of their family and their friends and the people in the neighborhood, and sort of the feel of this entire community at this time and what it was like. And while her obsession may have ended up sort of like adding to the events that would later become her death and her downfall, it also was everything that made this book great and brilliant. And it's important to recognize that this book stands on its own, even without all of the hype behind finding a serial killer. She named him, she wrote a letter to him, and her letter became manifested even after she died. And I think that that's really important to like have a closure to the story. But even without that, this book was brilliant.
If you are interested in knowing more about this case, the trial has been continued until September. There was like the initial trial meeting, and then it has been continued to September, so you can look forward, question mark, to the actual news of the trial when that happens in September. Before all of this happened, like before he was caught, the Investigation Network, I believe it's ID, did a 3 or 4 part documentary series on this, and after everything that has happened, HBO is doing a miniseries based around Michelle's book. So there's definitely going to be a lot still happening with this case, about this case. If the video medium is more your style, you can check out all that stuff. I would like to say briefly, at the beginning of next month, you can look forward to our next Bibliomancy for Beginners episode, which is on Tempest and Slaughter by Tamora Pierce. It is my pick, and I'm really excited. I've been waiting for years for this book, and I finished it a couple of days ago, and I have thoughts, but like, Tamora Pierce is like coming home for me. It's great. So you can look forward to that kind of stuff and at the giveaway, and then we should have some more videos coming down the pipe soon. I'm about to be done with my summer classes, so that's nice. Leave any notes down in the comments if you have any other resources about this. If you have any thoughts about the book, read it, want to know some other questions, just drop us a line and we'll get back to you. Thanks guys, bye!